Today we'll be doing 4.1, identifying 3D shapes. We'll talk about five different shapes. We'll talk about the faces, the edges, and the vertices, okay, and what their names are. We want to get familiar with knowing the names of these shapes that we'll later find the area and volume for. All right, so let's do some vocab first. So when I say a polyhedron, I want you to know I mean that it's a 3D shape. Polyhedron, un poliedro en español, solamente quiere decir que es una figura 3D, ¿ok? So, esta figura va a tener largura, anchura y también va a tener largura. The other definition, net, a polyhedron that is unfolded. Okay, so in the 5 shapes we'll learn today, we'll see their nets visually in our table, okay? What about a pyramid? A pyramid is a type of 3D shape that has one base. So a pyramid has one base and all the other faces are triangles. I'm running out of space. And they all meet at a single point. So something that distinguishes between a pyramid and a prism is that you'll see that peak at the top where all of the faces are connecting. So, la siguiente definición importante es la pirámide. Vamos a ver dos diferentes tipos de pirámides hoy, pero algo que se identifica como pirámide es que ves como si tuviera un pico, ¿ok? Y todas las caras de tu pirámide son triángulos. La base es la que es diferente. Puede ser un cuadro, puede ser un triángulo también. Y las vamos a ver en unos momentos, las dos pirámides que vamos a estar usando en esta unidad. What about a prism? A prism is a type of polyhedron that has two bases that are the same. The bases are connected by rectangles or parallelograms. Okay, so a prism, very important. This one now has two bases, and the faces will be rectangles most of the time, or it says here parallelograms. Ok, un prismo diferente que pirámide es un poliedro, so es una figura 3D que tiene dos bases. Y las bases conectan, las bases son conectadas por rectángulos o paralelogramos. So, van a ver tres tipos de prismos que vamos a aprender hoy también. Sus nombres es lo más importante que hoy quiero que lleven con ustedes, ¿verdad? Que se vayan familiarizando con los nombres de estas figuras 3D y también qué son las caras, qué son los lados y qué son vértices, ¿ok? Vamos a empezar con la primera figura. Let's start with the first 3D shape, the first polyhedron. The first name that we're going to talk about is the cube. Okay, so the cube, we can see it right there visually. Okay, it's going to have 6 sides. Okay, we can see the net where if we were to unfold this is how the net would look like. A question that I have is how many faces, how many edges, and how many vertices? Okay, so the faces are the ones that you can see in the planes. So let me get my highlighter. So like for example, this would be a face right here. Okay. And then this would be another face at the top. And then this would be another face. So in all, if you count them, it should be 6 faces. And then what about edges? The edges, and I'll do these in red, are those lines that kind of, you can say, underline your faces. Okay, so you want to count all of these edges. So if you would count them all throughout your shape, you should have 12 edges for a cube. All right, and then here in green, what about vertices? The vertices are the points that are sticking out in your shape, okay? So you can call them the points. They're also called vertices. And if you count them, you should have 8 vertices. So this is what the cube looks like. 6 faces, 12 edges, and 8 vertices. The next shape is a rectangular prism. So let's write that down. Rectangular prism. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to look for the faces, the edges, and the vertices, okay? So if I were to count the faces, so this would be a face, this would be a face, and this would be a face. I would say that I have 6 faces if I count correctly. If I look for the edges, I'm going to highlight them here in, oh, I was going to use yellow, but let me just get a smaller, thinner one. So this would be an edge, 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 edge. Okay, you would count all of them. Okay, and if you would count correctly, you should have 12 edges. Okay, the last one is the vertices, those points that are sticking out in your shape. And you have 8 vertices. Ok, acabo de hablar del cubo y estoy hablando del prismo rectangular, ok. So, lo importante aquí es saber cuántas caras, cuántos lados y cuántas vértices. Yo voy a, en su examen, yo les voy a preguntar, les voy a dar una de las 5 figuras que ven aquí y les voy a preguntar, díganme cuántas caras, cuántos lados y cuántas vértices hay. Ustedes tienen que saber y buscarlos, ¿ok? So, las caras son como los planos, ¿verdad? De tu figura. Edges son los lados, ¿ok? Los que yo puse en el prismo en amarillo. En las vértices son esos puntos. Puedes pensarlo como las esquinas que están saliendo de tu figura. Y en este caso hay 8 vértices. So, hemos hablado del cubo. Hemos hablado del prismo rectangular. Vamos a hablar de la pirámide que está acá abajito. Okay, let's talk about the next shape. This one, because the base is a square, I'm going to say this is called the square pyramid. It's called square pyramid because the base here, the one in the bottom, is a square. We can see the net here if it would be unfolded, how it would look, okay? And then the question is how many faces, how many edges, and how many vertices? Okay, if you were to be looking for your faces, this is 1 face, 2, the other side has 3, 4, and then the base is 5. This would have 5 faces if you count them all correctly. How many edges? Well, let's look at those in yellow. 1 edge, 2 edge, 3 edge, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there's one here behind that we haven't seen. So it's 8. It's kind of hard to tell, right? There's a lot going on here in the picture. Okay, but if you look at your shape, right? The 3D shape that you have there in the classroom, you'll count 8 edges for the square pyramid. Okay, and what about your vertices? So the peak counts as 1, and then the 4 that you have for your square base, so that's 5 vertices. Ok, aquí yo tengo la pirámide, que es la pirámide cuadro, a square pyramid. Se llama square pyramid porque la base es un cuadro. Okay, por eso se llama square pyramid. Y pueden ver que las otras caras son triángulos. Ok, vamos a la siguiente figura. Let's do the next figure. Let's do the triangular pyramid. Okay, so this one, again, I'm going to look for faces, edges, and vertices. The faces, if you count them, you should have four faces, right? This is 1, this is 2, the back one is 3, and then the base, this one is 4. Okay, I kind of erased it out just so it's a little bit clearer how to find the edges and the vertices. So let's do the edges next. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it'll be 6 edges. Okay, I'm erasing it so it's easier to see everything else. So let's do the vertices and we'll do them in green. So the peak is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 vertices. Okay, hopefully with the shapes that you have there in the classroom, you can kind of see the shape itself and it's easier to count them, okay? Okay, and then the last one, we're gonna do the triangular prism. Ok, tenemos el prisma triangular porque las bases son triángulos, por eso se llama triangular prism. All right, so because our bases are triangles, so these are my bases in blue, we call this a triangular prism, okay? So the ones in blue, those are my bases. Now, I'm going to ask you the same question. How many faces, edges, and vertices? So I have 1, 2 with the bases, 3, 4, 5 faces. And we can see them here clearer in our net, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 faces, okay? The net also is helpful in that case because you can see the faces more clear, the edges clearer than how you can in a 3D shape on a paper, right? What about edges? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There is 9 edges for a triangular prism. And then the last part, my vertices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's it. 6 vertices. Okay, so I won't ask you to memorize how many faces, edges, or vertices for each shape, but if I give you a shape in your quiz or your exam, I want you to tell me how many faces, edges, and vertices for that one, okay? So you should be able to find them in your given figure. Okay, so these are your 5 shapes that we will be using throughout our unit. All right, make sure you copy down everything that I have here. All right, and Good luck.